to the Daily Grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, because you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And what is going on, full-time family? It is time for the morning after the fight with your boy Full-Time MMA, and we got a lot to talk about. We had some phenomenal fights this past weekend, this Saturday. Both Bellator 221 and UFC 237 delivered. We had some spectacular finishes, some dominant performances. We had some legends going down. We had injuries. We had scary moments. We had brawls. I mean, we just had everything that you could ask for from a night of fights, from a fight weekend. So, I mean, UFC, Bellator, both put on great shows. We're going to start with the UFC here. I know that's what everybody's the most excited to talk about, or the most eager. I don't know how excited people are, because I know a lot of people were rooting for Rose Namajunas, and unfortunately we had a scary moment in that fight when Jessica Andrade spiked her on her neck and head in the second round or third round to finish the fight. And you know, Rose Namajunas coming into this fight, she had a neck injury, so that was just terrible to see. I mean, that could have been a potentially career-threatening slam right there. After the fight, fortunately, Rose Namajunas, she's good. She said she didn't feel anything, you know, like with her neck. It didn't feel crazy because she thinks she was relaxed when it happened. And let me tell you, that might have been the best thing for her, because I had a friend who was involved in an accident with, you know, drunken driving, and no one got hurt. He was the one that almost got hurt. And this, you know, I was young. I wasn't even old enough to fucking drink yet. And this was one of my older friends who was drinking, and he was drinking and driving, and he wasn't like paying attention. He ended up spinning off the road. His trucks rolled over, and the cop said the only reason he made it was because he was so relaxed, you know, from being loose, from being kind of intoxicated. If he would have stiffened up, you know, he would have probably broke bones and all type of shit. So the fact that he was relaxed was the best thing for him. And that's what I thought of whenever Rose Namajunas talked about, you know, with the slam, and she said it was a good thing she was relaxed. Because, yeah, man, that looked terrible. Andrade picked her up, and Rose was looking amazing in the fight up until that point. She was fucking snapping Jessica Andrade's head back with jabs, rocking her, busting her face up. Rose Namajunas looked like she was about to, I mean, just defend her belt flawlessly last night before the slam. There was a couple of slams before the, you know, the finishing slam and the follow-up punches, but those weren't doing as much damage. You know, none of them, Rose was able to either pull guard or get back up off of all of those slams. None of them really had Rose threatened, you know, near as much as this last slam. So, but that's the thing with Jessica Andrade. She's a little monster, and we knew she was going to have a reach disadvantage in this fight. Rose's jab, of course, was going to be a problem, but how are you going to get through the jab? Are you going to be able to cut the distance and get close enough to pull off your slams or land your power shots or clinch up with Rose? Or what are you going to be able to do to get past her distance? And her answer was to get close enough to land some slams. The first two slams, you know, they were nice, they were decent, but that third slam really sealed the deal. Jessica Andrade is now the new women's strawweight champion, man. And that's not, you know, that wasn't the only fight of the night. We also had Anderson Silva versus Jared Cannonier, Jose Aldo, Alexander Volkanovski. But just to stick with the main event for a little bit longer, let's talk about what this means for each of these ladies. Rose Namajunas talked about this might be her last fight, and it's not because of an injury, but it's because she said she don't know if this is what she wants to do anymore. I listened to her post-fight speech, and she said, I know I can beat her, I just don't know if this is what I want anymore. And Rose definitely has an ego there, you know, because just to be fair to Jessica Andrade, you know, if you kind of retire and say, like, I know I can beat her, but I don't want to fight her again, it's like, nah, that ain't it. You know what I'm saying? I do hear where Rose is coming from, though, and I actually think that is not a bad decision. I mean, if Rose has, you know, enough, if she has invested her money with, you know, that she's got with the belt, and she's got other things that she can make a living off of, you know, coming off of a neck injury, and getting slammed like that, that's a different situation than a lot of other injuries fighters come back from. Neck injuries are serious. So to have a neck injury and then to be slammed on your neck, spiked on your head, that is serious. And luckily, nothing happened. Rose was talking at the post-fight press conference. She seemed good. Jessica Andrade was wearing more damage on her face because Rose was phenomenal up until that point. But still, I thought it was wise what she said. I don't know if I want to do this anymore because heaven forbid it wasn't. That could have been terrible. Someone with a neck injury getting slammed on their neck. I mean, come on. You don't have to have much of an imagination to know how bad that could be. And so, luckily, Rose got out of here unscathed. But that didn't have to be the case. So, I don't know if Rose is going to come back after that. I'm sure her, Pat, everyone's going to assess the situation, see if this is what she still wants to do. I hope she does come back because she did show in that fight she's still one of the best strawweights on the planet. I mean, she could have beat Jessica Andrade. I don't know if she will win the rematch because who's to say Jessica Andrade doesn't get in close enough and slam her again multiple times? Who's to say, we know Jessica Andrade has a trouble getting past jabs, but who's to say she doesn't slam her or land a more powerful shot this time? Like, if they were to fight again, it's a 50-50. It's not like we just know Rose is gonna win. So I would like to see the rematch, of course. What does it set up for Jessica Andrade? Well, she's got the rematch with Rose. A lot of people, I'm sure, would love to see. Does Rose deserve a rematch? Sure. I mean, what does deserve mean, though? There's a lot of champions that deserve rematches. Does she deserve the rematch just because everybody loves her, or because did she break a record like Stipe? I mean, she was winning the fight up until that point. I would love to see the rematch, but as far as what's next for Jessica Andrade, there's also Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who has a win over Jessica Andrade. I'm sure she would love to fight Jessica, because Joanna can keep that jab in Jessica's face, and Joanna's harder to take down because she's a little taller, and it's harder to take taller people down because you go to lift them up and their feet are still on the fucking ground. So Jessica Andrade, she's got those two matchups now. Valentina Shevchenko, Jessica Andrade has fought at 135. You think she won't fight at 125 in a champ versus champ fight? Brazil, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade in Brazil? Are you kidding me? That would be huge. Jessica Andrade has options. She's got the belt. I mean, big win for her. It couldn't have went to a better, more deserving person as far as the belt. She had to wait for her title shot, beat number one contender after number one contender. She didn't get to literally wait for her title shot as far as not fighting. I mean, she had to wait as far as she was the number one contender, but she had to wait for the champion, to heal up, and everything that the champ was going through. Jessica Andrade was just starving on the sidelines, being starved out essentially, just happened to take fights. Even though she was already the number one contender, she didn't just sit on her hands and say, I deserve a title shot, I'll wait for it. She kept fighting. I mean, she had financial struggles even as the number one contender, and now she's got the belt. She'll be making that money that she deserves, and hopefully she'll get some big fights, and we'll see where Jessica goes from here. She's only 27 years old, and she is dangerous, but we have seen the blueprint, how people can give her trouble. You got some reach, you got a nice jab. I mean, if you can defend those takedowns and slams, you might be able to beat Jessica, but Jessica is still a fucking dog. So, I was rooting for her last night just because I felt like everyone was counting her out, but I did not want to see that happen to Rose. I didn't want to see her get slammed on her head like that. That shit was scary, dog. So we'll talk about the rest of the fights as well, but we'll talk about this more throughout the week, of course. Jared Cannonier versus Anderson Silva, that was some fucking BS. Jared Cannonier kicked him 8 times in the leg, and then Anderson Silva just went down like his shit was shot. It's like, damn, bro, should you have even been fighting if your leg is that fragile? So I don't know. Congratulations to Jared Cannonier. We didn't really get to see much of a fight there. It was literally 8 leg kicks. We have seen Anderson Silva, his leg snap out of his bones snap out of his leg before. We've seen his leg break. So that's why it's understandable. Okay, Anderson Silva went down with the leg kick. Okay, it makes sense. He didn't want his fucking leg to get kicked out from under him. But it's who are you gonna fight? You better fight someone that doesn't throw any leg kicks, or how can he even fight anymore? I don't know, that was weird. Didn't want to see that happen to Silva that way. I mean, Jared Cannonier, congrats. Moving on to a fight that was a good fight for Volkanovski, at least. Unanimous decision over Jose Aldo. Alexander Volkanovski did a good job of controlling Aldo, landing more shots. He outpaced him. He controlled him against the fence for a lot of the fight. The knees to the thigh, the inside leg kicks, outside leg kicks. He was really fast in there. He looked good against Jose Aldo, who was also fighting at home. Man, it was a tough night for Brazil because all their legends lost, except for Andrade, who's like new. You know, it's like the ultimate torch passing. Anderson Silva lost. He's a fucking legend. Not even just Brazilian. He's a legend. Jose Aldo, same story really, but both of them, two of the Brazilian GOATs, losing on the same night. Thiago Alves even losing to Loriana Staropoli. Who's seen that one coming? Mystic full time. Irene Aldana beat Betch Correia. So that was 4 Brazilians that lost in a row. 5 counting Little Nog to Ryan Spann. It was not looking good leading up to that main event, and then when Rose was winning her fight, it was like, oh my snaps, there's about to be 6 Brazilian fighters to lose in a row to end the night. They might fucking riot there. But Jessica Andrade came through and held it down, no pun intended. So yeah, that was the UFC fight card. Great night of fights, sets up some awesome fights, maybe an amazing rematch. We'll see where everybody goes from here, but we also got some Bellator to talk about because there were some amazing Bellator fights and some results and highlights, and it was fucking awesome. We had Douglas Lima versus Michael Venom Page. That second round knockout, man, that's one that'll be replayed for ages. It's crazy because Michael Venom Page is usually the hammer. Tonight he was the nail, but he's known for having just highlight reel knockouts. And he got knocked out in one of the most highlight reel fashion you're gonna see. Douglas Lima kicked his leg from under him. He went to try and stand up off balance and just ate a fucking uppercut all the way from Brazil. I mean, this thing reminded you of Francis Ngannou, the impact it had, and the angle he just hit Michael Venom Page at. It was just so spot on the fucking money. One shot afterward, hammer fist, follow it up, it was over. Wow, what a knockout, man. That was one of the knockouts of the year. For sure, one of the knockouts of the year. That Douglas Lima, Michael Venom Page, that is one of the knockouts of the year. Leg kick, kicked his legs all the way from under him. He's standing up, off balanced, just the uppercut. You had Taiwan Air Claxton. I think he won a second round KO TKO or third round. Yeah, it was an early stoppage, but hey, it is what it is. He was dominating the fight. Jake Hager, Jack Swagger, whatever the fuck you want to call him. What a douchebag. He was fighting a guy that won some competition, not even a legitimate fighter, some fucking dude that was like 1-2 off of the streets. He puts him in a head and arm choke and holds on to it for like fucking 5 extra seconds. Like he was just beating a mortal enemy and you wanted to make sure he was out of it. Like, what the hell? You're not Khabib. That's not Conor. Why the fuck are you holding on to this man like this? After the referee stopped the fight, you're still holding on to the choke? You're fighting a fan. That shit was awkward. And then we didn't get to watch this live because it was during the same time as Aldo Volkanovski, but it was over quick. Michael Chandler was knocked out in the first round by Pitbull, Patricio Pitbull, man. He came through. Now he's the Bellator double champ, featherweight and lightweight. Realized his dream was there, knocking out one of his biggest rivals in Bellator, Michael Chandler. That was a huge win for Pitbull, for sure. So we had some great fights this weekend. Great times. I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. A lot of the stuff we talked about with the UFC. Bellator, they delivered. UFC delivered. I mean, just an epic weekend of fights. So this is the recap. We'll talk about these fights more throughout the week. Make sure you guys subscribe to our main channel, Full Time MMA, as well as our second channel, UFC Yankovic. we will be able to live stream on this channel once again in 8 days, guys. So our time is almost here. So that being said, man, it is what it is. This is my UFC 237 and Bellator 221 recap. Let me know what you guys thought about the fight in the comments. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.